There is a growing concern about availability of drugs and possibly even the escalation in the prices of drugs with the coronavirus outbreak in China. The fact being that 70% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients for Indian bulk drug industry is being imported from there. I have with me Kiran Mazumdar Shah, who is in fact in Hyderabad for the BioAsia. Thank you for joining us. There is a huge concern, certainly. We seem to be hugely import dependent on China. We are not yet seen the shortages nor price escalation. That's what I checked in the shops. But what are we looking at? Is there really a real crisis there?
I think there could be a real crisis in the making if we don't really take steps to be prepared to tackle an eventuality. Right now there are hopes that the coronavirus will start receding when the season warms up. That's the expectation. But then, we really need to make sure that we do have proper data, that we do, have data on stocks, data on our requirements, data on our capabilities. How quickly can plants actually start beefing up and producing some of the intermediates and APIs that otherwise we import from China and so on and so forth. I understand many of the plants actually need environmental clearance, pollution board clearance, even though they are making many of these intermediates.
I understand there is a task force that's been constituted by the central government and that's looking at what is the road ahead, and the industry seems to have assured the government that as of now there is no scare. Yes, they are also asking for dilution in the environmental kind of norms for clear manufacture, but how soon can that happen? Isn't that also a timeline that needs to be followed?
Yeah, so I think yes, most parts of the industry feels that we've got stock that can buffer us for 3 to 4 months, but then we also have to understand that if we really want to not just wait for the stocks to run out or the coronavirus to really become a global kind of a threat, and then India then becomes, absolutely in a crisis situation where it can't do anything. If we've got 3 to 4 months of stock, don't you think it's about time that we also saw how we should fill up some of that buffer on our own? And if we have the capabilities and if we have the wherewithal to produce them, I think we should do it now. And I think government must have policies and enablement that can happen now, not later. Because we don't want to finally get into a crisis. So it's about, saying that, let's take a risk and let's see, maybe in 3 to 4 months the virus might go away and all will be well. That's one way of looking at
Optimism.
it. But the other way of looking at it is, look, even if the coronavirus is going to go away in a few months, shouldn't we use this as an opportunity to be self-sufficient? Shouldn't we also use this as a crisis and get back and regain that market that we lost to China?
That's the huge thing, isn't it? When in Parliament, the ministers in fact said up to 70% dependence on China. Was that something that needed correction and this is an opportunity, is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. And we keep talking about Make in India. And I feel the pharmaceutical industry is one sector that has been making in India for the world. And I think this is a industry that has been ignored and neglected for far too long. I think we must understand that the pharma sector is a huge job generator. It is a huge investment creator. Okay? Because this is a capital intensive industry. This is a very labor intensive industry as well. And this is also an industry that has a huge export potential and a huge import substitution potential. So you think about all these aspects of this pharma sector, it has very few subsidies, there's price control, there is so many headwinds that the pharma industry has to play. Don't you think this is a time when the government ought to look at this sector and say, let's become the true pharmacy of the world, let's really strengthen this sector and allow it to grow and expand and address all its challenges? Because this is about...
You spoke about data as a very important point to start this entire exercise. In your understanding, that actually comprehensive data may actually not be available with the government about what exactly we are holding. And the second aspect is it antibiotics? Is it people are expressing a scare about antibiotics, especially? Is that something that's going to get hit because of the lockdown in China?
Look, the way I look at it, Uma, is that we have the Indian Drug Manufacturers Association. Okay, they actually have a good database on APIs, on drug intermediate imports, I hope. We also have Pharmexil, which probably has some of that data. I think this is an opportunity for us to really do something with that data. I think we need to collate that data, we need to understand that data, we need to analyze the data and assess the true risk that we are facing, rather than just having knee-jerk reactions to everything. So I really want to know, has someone sat down and done all this data analytics before really starting to take these very aggressive stands on banning exports or doing anything of the sort? And to answer your other question, I think we need to have a good perspective on our essential medicine list, which of course includes antibiotics, which includes, the analgesics and other products. We need to see what is it that really we are going to face a true shortage of. What is it that we can be truly vertically integrated with? And what is it that we really need to ban in terms of exports? And
They were speaking about 12 essential items or medical categories that were going to be banned. What is the status on that? And is that the way to actually tide over this crisis, to say we won't send anything outside and therefore we'll be able to self-sustain?
No, but I think before I answer that question, I think we need to see data. If really we are vulnerable, we have to ban. But if we are not that vulnerable, like for instance, many of these products, we might be fully vertically integrated and we may not have a dependence on China. In which case, I think we should take full advantage of the export opportunity and of expanding that capacity if we are competing with China, so on and so forth.
So as an industry leader, just wanting for our viewers to understand, is there really a crisis? Should we worry about starting to stock? That will also start, isn't it? People start panicking.
Well, I certainly think there is a crisis, and if we don't, look at it with a state of preparedness, then it could become a crisis that we just won't be able to handle in the future. We've got to be, proactive. We've got to, take certain measures in terms of being able to assess the risk, mitigate the risk, and a part of that is, of course, banning exports of key essential drugs, because as a country we definitely don't want to run out of essential medicines.
Thank you so much for your insights. So that's Kiran Mazumdar Shah telling us about what she thinks the coronavirus impact can be, and saying that any level of preparedness is going to be less right now, because we really don't know which way this outbreak is going to go and how big a crisis we may land in. In Hyderabad, with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.